You know that moment when you check your bank account and smile gently instead of panicking? That comfortable feeling where you don't agonize over whether to buy a coffee, where you don't do budget math at the grocery store? There's a specific number where this transformation happens, and it's not the figure most people guess. The majority of financial gurus will tell you that you need to become a millionaire or reach a six-figure income. But there's something they all miss. There's a much smaller threshold that fundamentally changes your relationship with money. The moment you cross that threshold, everything shifts. That number is $20,000. I'm Grant. I think deeply about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to grow wealth almost effortlessly while others stay stuck in the same cycle for years. If you want to understand the mechanics of real wealth building, subscribe to the channel, and if this video changes your perspective, don't forget to like it. Now, before I get into why $20,000 is so pivotal, let me ask you this. When you think about building wealth, what comes to mind? Maybe someone who has never had money troubles, or someone who saves penny by penny. But wealth doesn't actually work the way most people think. Here's the truth. In financial life, certain thresholds function like invisible walls. Once you break through that wall, the rules of the game change completely. $20,000 is the first major threshold that separates those who will live paycheck to paycheck their whole lives from those who will build real wealth. And what's surprising is that there are plenty of people who don't even know this threshold exists. Think of it this way. Imagine you're forced to push a heavy boulder uphill. The hardest part is getting it moving. You sweat, you strain, progress is nearly zero. But once you gain enough momentum, something changes. The boulder starts to pick up speed, and when it reaches the top, it rolls down the other side almost on its own. $20,000 is exactly that tipping point where the financial boulder crests and begins rolling downhill. Before that point, you're climbing uphill against gravity. After it, gravity moves to your side. But here's where it gets truly interesting, and it will probably surprise you. The difference isn't just mathematical. It's not simply a matter of your investment returns growing because you have more money. The real magic happens in your brain. When you have no savings, your brain operates on what psychologists call survival mode. Every financial decision is filtered through fear and scarcity. You accept the first job offer that comes along because you can't afford to be selective. You stay in environments you hate because leaving feels too risky. You say yes to things you don't want to do because you need the money. This isn't just about being practical or responsible. When you're in survival mode, your brain can't find room to think about growth and opportunity. It's like trying to plan a vacation while your house is on fire. Your entire mental capacity is consumed by immediate threats and short-term survival. But when you cross that $20,000 threshold, something remarkable happens. Your brain starts to think differently. The question, how do I make it to the next paycheck, is replaced by, how do I grow this money? Instead of reacting to every financial crisis that arises, you start proactively planning for wealth building. Vanguard's research shows that even a $2,000 emergency fund increases financial well-being by 21%. $2,000 is less than what most people spend on a vacation or a new laptop. But even this small buffer creates an enormous psychological transformation simply because it pulls you out of pure survival mode. When you build your emergency fund up to 3 to 6 months of living expenses, around $20,000 for most people, your financial well-being increases by another 13 points. But more importantly, you've created enough breathing room for your brain to think about building wealth rather than just protecting it. Now the math starts getting truly exciting. Let's say you're saving $1,000 a month and earning an 8% return on your investments. Reaching that first $20,000 takes about 19 months. That's a year and a half of discipline, sacrifice, and deferred gratification. It's not easy, and honestly, most people give up somewhere along the way. But when you hear this next part, your mind might stop. You don't need to wait another 19 months for the second $20,000. It only takes about 17 months. Why? Because that first $20,000 is now generating its own returns alongside your monthly contributions. Think about it. You put in exactly the same amount of money, put in exactly the same effort, took exactly the same risk, yet you gain 2 months because more money is working for you. This is compound interest beginning to kick in. By the time you're working toward the third $20,000, the timeline shrinks even further. Your money is carrying an ever-increasing share of the load while you put in the same effort. When you reach truly large numbers, the momentum becomes almost laughable. When your investment portfolio reaches $400,000, you can produce the next $20,000 in just 5 months. An amount that would have taken you nearly 2 years to save at the start now materializes on its own. The first milestone seems impossible, but every subsequent one gets progressively easier. You might be thinking, wealthy people have access to special investment worlds that ordinary people can't reach, private funds or opportunities that only open at certain wealth levels. Well, that's somewhat true at ultra-high levels. That's not what creates this $20,000 phenomenon. The real secret is much simpler and, frankly, much more hopeful. It's just math working in your favor. When you invest $1,000 and earn 10%, you make $100. Apply that same 10% growth to $10,000 and you earn $1,000 from the same investment in the same time with the same risk. This is why reaching $20,000 feels so pivotal. Until that point, your investment returns seem negligible because you're working with smaller amounts. A 10% return on $2,000 is $200. Nice, but not life-changing. A 10% return on $20,000 is $2,000. Now we're talking about a number that actually matters. If your $20,000 sits invested and earns 8% annually, that means this money is funneling $1,600 a year into your account without you lifting a finger. Not money earned through your work, money that materializes because your existing money is working for you. The investment strategy isn't more sophisticated than what someone investing $1,000 uses. You can buy the same index funds, use the same brokerages, follow the same basic principles. The only difference is scale. And that scale transforms small percentage gains into real financial progress. But here's something most people completely miss, and it may be the most important point of this entire video. When you save $20,000, you've accomplished something far more valuable than accumulating money in a bank account. You've fundamentally reprogrammed your brain and built the most important financial habit you'll develop throughout your entire life. That might sound like self-help fluff, but stay with me, because this is where things get really practical. Think about what it takes to save $20,000 from zero. Unless you're earning a very high income or living rent-free with family, this requires serious discipline. You had to track where every dollar went. You said no to things you wanted in order to save. You resisted the impulse to blow your savings on the shiny thing that caught your eye that week. Most importantly, you did all of this consistently for months, even years. And here's the crucial point. You proved to yourself that you have the power to control money. You became someone who can defer gratification when it matters. This isn't just a financial skill. It's a life skill. This identity transformation is critically important because it influences every financial decision you make going forward. Before saving $20,000, even buying a $4 coffee required a mental calculation of whether you could afford it. After crossing that threshold, you no longer worry about small things because you know you've set your priorities right. You've proven you can make big sacrifices when necessary. But there's another psychological transformation at this level that most people don't talk about. You start seeing opportunities where you used to see threats. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, every unexpected expense feels like a disaster. Your car breaks down, your laptop crashes, your rent goes up. These aren't opportunities, they're financial emergencies that derail your entire month. But when you have $20,000, these same events become, at worst, minor inconveniences. Car broke down? Annoying, but not devastating. Laptop crashed? Time to upgrade to something better? Rent went up? Maybe it's exactly the right time to look for a better place or negotiate a raise. Even more importantly, you start noticing opportunities that were always there, but that you couldn't take advantage of before. A friend says they're starting a business and looking for a partner. Previously, you would have said interesting and moved on. Now you can genuinely consider whether investing $5,000 makes sense. A rental property opportunity comes along. Previously, you would have scrolled past it on Zillow. Now you can run the numbers. Your boss mentions a conference that would benefit your career, but the company isn't covering expenses. Previously, you would have made excuses about not being able to attend. Now you can weigh the return on investment. This is what wealthy people mean when they say, money makes money. It's not a cosmic conspiracy where the universe sends a little more cash to those who already have it. Having money gives you options, and options create more opportunities to earn more money. Here's one more thing most people miss about budgeting, and it may be the most important thing I've said so far. Around the $20,000 threshold, you start giving less importance to small expenses and far more importance to big ones. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. When you don't have money, every purchase becomes an obsession. Name brand cereal or store brand? Is a $3 coffee worth it, or should I make it at home? Premium gas or regular? These decisions consume mental energy because every dollar feels significant. But once you've built a solid financial foundation, you realize that these micro decisions are largely irrelevant. Getting 1 cup of coffee per day instead of making it at home might cost an extra $1,000 per year. A real amount, but not the decision that will determine your financial future. What matters are the big decisions: where you live, what you drive, how much you save, where you invest. These choices can affect your net worth by tens of thousands of dollars over time. You step away from agonizing over whether to buy organic bananas and redirect your energy toward optimizing your housing costs, increasing your income potential, and solidifying your investment strategy. This shift in focus is tremendously liberating. It opens up mental space for the decisions that actually matter. Now let's look at what happens in your career when you reach this turning point, because this is where things get genuinely fascinating. Saving $20,000 transforms not just your relationship with money, but your relationship with work. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're essentially trapped in your current job. Your boss might be terrible, your coworkers toxic, the work soul-crushing, but you can't leave because you need that next paycheck. This puts you in an extremely weak position at the negotiating table. You don't ask for a raise because you're afraid of being fired. You don't push back on unreasonable demands because they need you far less than you need them. You can't explore other opportunities because even taking time off for an interview feels risky. You're stuck, and everyone knows it. But $20,000 changes everything. Suddenly you have what I call walking money. You can quit tomorrow and manage for months while finding something better. This doesn't mean you need to act recklessly or burn bridges, but it means you're now negotiating from strength rather than desperation. This psychological shift affects every dimension of how you approach your career. You ask for the raise you deserve, because at worst, they can say no, and you'll be fine either way. You push back on unreasonable demands because you're not afraid of the consequences. You explore new opportunities because you have enough of a foundation to take risks. What's fascinating is this: most of the time you don't even need to use your walking money. Just having it there fundamentally changes your posture at work from day one. You become someone who is more confident, more decisive, more willing to take on challenging projects. What happens when you show up differently? People notice. Suddenly better assignments come your way, more recognition, and yes, more money. It's like having a secret superpower you never hope to use, but knowing it exists fundamentally changes how you operate. The more secure and successful you are in your work life, the faster your wealth grows, which gives you even more options and confidence. It's a positive cycle that gains momentum over time. But here's where I constantly see most people stumble. They reach $20,000, they feel that psychological transformation, and then they spend it on something foolish. Maybe they decide to buy a new car because they've been so disciplined, or they take an expensive vacation because they deserve it, or they use it as a down payment on a house they can't really afford. Don't do this. That $20,000 is not a reward for your good behavior. It is the foundation of your financial future. It is a seed that, if you allow it to grow patiently, will transform into generational wealth. This will either make you laugh or cry depending on your situation. But I have to say it. The average person spends literally more money on their car over their lifetime than what's needed for financial independence. Think about it. Between loan payments, insurance, maintenance, and fuel, most people pay $600 to $800 a month on transportation. Over a 40-year period, that easily adds up to $400,000 or more just to get from one place to another. And these same people complain about not being able to save for retirement. It's like someone lamenting they can't eat healthy while spending a fortune on a gym membership they never use. What makes this even more striking? The moment you drive a brand new car off the lot, roughly 20% of its value evaporates. So you're not just spending, you're actively destroying wealth. Invest that same amount in a diversified portfolio instead, and you witness your money not shrinking but multiplying. I understand. Cars are emotional purchases. You want something reliable, stylish, something that makes you feel successful. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you know what you're trading away. That car payment might make you look wealthy while actually keeping you poor. This is where having $20,000 in savings fundamentally changes your perspective on major purchases. Instead of asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" you start asking, "What is this actually costing me in opportunity cost?" That $30,000 car isn't just $30,000, it's money that could grow to over $200,000 in your investment account over 20 years. Suddenly, driving a reliable used car doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a strategic choice that finances your future freedom. And see the beautiful irony. The person showing off in their new car is probably stressed about money, while the one quietly driving their old Honda is building wealth and sleeping far more soundly at night. This mindset carries over to every major financial decision: housing, education, vacations, hobbies. Everything passes through the lens of opportunity cost, not in a way that becomes an obsession draining all enjoyment from life. Rather, a strategic perspective that lets you consciously determine where your money goes. And let me tell you something that might surprise you. When you start thinking this way, you realize you don't actually want half the things you thought you did. Bigger apartment? Extra space would be nice, but is it worth delaying financial independence by 5 years? Expensive hobby? Fun, but there are probably alternatives that deliver the same satisfaction at lower cost. This is never about becoming a miser who refuses to enjoy anything. It's about consciously managing where your money flows rather than letting it drift toward things that don't matter. When you have clear financial goals and a clear understanding of the power of compound interest, it becomes much easier to distinguish between what you want and what you truly want. $20,000 won't make you rich overnight, but it will fundamentally transform your relationship with money and with opportunity. It will make the difference between merely surviving in life and actually directing it. Start building that foundation today, because your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Trust me, they'll thank you.